So thank you, Michael. Thank you for coming on and talking with me here. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Like, I'm really excited to talk about this. It's been a long journey, and it's definitely changed me. This topic that we're about to talk about, man.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. So we'll tell the audience what it is. The topic that we're going to be talking about today is virtual reality. And Michael has the unique experience of working with virtual reality and working in a company where he got to see kind of the front lines of where this technology is currently at, what people are doing with it, how it's being used as a creative medium. And I think you guys will really like some of the info that he's got for you. And I think this is a fascinating topic. So let's dive right in, man. So tell us a little bit about, where you were working, a little bit about what that was like, and let's go from there.
Right. All right. So after I graduated, I went to LA with the herd of my fellow classmates, and I worked at this place called Verse. Mm-hmm. They now have a different name called Within. Verse, VRSE.
Yeah.
And this place was really cool. When I graduated, I was doing this like semester in a late program, mm-hmm. and our professor, like teacher manager, he wasn't the teacher, he was like the manager of the whole thing. And he came in to like do some talks, mm-hmm. as we would also have talks from other people, other producers or directors or actors, and he's like, guys, I feel I should tell you this because it's going to be coming. This was 2015. This was like 2-3 years ago now. Ooh, 2018. But there's this thing called like virtual reality coming up now, and I wanted to let you guys know this because you'd be seeing this now. And he shows us as one clip on YouTube. But actually, now that I realize it was more AR, augmented reality, he was showing us. Mm-hmm. But I was struck. I was like, what the hell is this? Like, I don't know the first thing about this, but I want to be in. And mm-hmm. everyone else in that class was like, nah, we don't want to do this, because they were all film majors.
Yeah, they're thinking, oh, well, I just want to work in film and use normal cameras and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
They didn't want
and
to
I'm
do
here thinking, like, do you guys not see the potential, the capabilities of this? Like, this is amazing. And so afterwards, I went and talked to the guy, and I'm like, dude, that stuff was amazing. Like, I'm all in. And I'm like, well, where do I start? He goes, well, this is one little company here that's doing a lot of VR stuff, and mm-hmm. it was Verse. And I'm looking it up, like, oh, Verse. Like, I like in conversations, I would talk to some of my friends outside of the classroom that weren't part of that that went to LA with me. Mm-hmm. And a friend of mine, Ellen, she worked at this commercial company.
Not DeGeneres, guys.
No, not. But she worked at Ellen DeGeneres.
Oh, that's even funnier.
Yeah, man. She would take so many Instagram pictures with Ellen's logo and be like, "Hey, it's me." Yeah. But yeah, so she actually worked at a commercial production company, and lo and behold, that same building was where Verse was, and they were just in like an office. And I just told her in passing, she's like, dude, like, I see those people all the time. And she's like, I'm like, well, can you give me like an email or something that I can send my resume or something? And she gives me the person to send it to. And I send that email out, and they said, come in for an interview. And they said, well, we have an internship, and then we have this like PA position. And I was like, well, can I apply for the PA position since it's paid? And she's like, absolutely. But the guy that we're having, the vault manager, mm-hmm. it was a vault PA position. The vault manager was out sick. He had like a back injury. And they're like, yeah, we'd love to have you come back and interview with him. And so I'm interviewing with him and the office coordinator. And we're going back and forth. They're really just trying to get to know me. And it really ends with a joke. 'Cause this guy was very funny. He loved jokes. And he's like, we ran into something about catching balls. He was like, can you dodge a ball, Michael? And I look at him and I'm like, I can dodge a wrench. And he's like, it's done. This is the guy.
Hey, a well-placed dodgeball reference will always get you hired.
Yeah. And he could tell. They both could tell I was very interested in like getting. Like I was so enthusiastic about getting paid to learn about virtual reality. Like I was like all in, because I just had previous experience on The Bachelorette, which I feel really helped me get that position too.
The Bachelorette. Full disclosure, I actually had sent in an application to The Bachelorette because I had somebody come up to me while I was working security at a bar, and I had somebody come up to me. I was like, "Hey, do you want to be on TV?" And it was for The Bachelorette.
Like, what a confidence boost that must have been.
Right?
Like,
It was.
what?
At first I was like, I'm like, what show? And then she said The Bachelor, and my initial response was, oh, I don't know if I want to do that.
That's what I said when they're like,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I went to the interview and I'm like, what is this even for? They're like, oh, it's for The Bachelorette. I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
But when you're now, you need a job, you take it.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
care what it is.
Yeah, and I knew that like my age was going to be a factor because being 23 versus a lot of the contestants are at least 26, 25 and up, and people who want to get married, right? That's the idea, at least behind who you would cast for something like The Bachelor or The Bachelorette. So they had not called me. They were supposed to call me in December if they were going to move forward with me. Obviously, they didn't. But pretty interesting. I thought that was kind of crazy.
What you just said, it's probably your age, man.
No, I'm sure it was the
like
age.
2 more years.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, maybe they'll reach out to me then, and by then, hopefully, I won't need something like The Bachelorette, right? Hopefully, this thing can do enough for me that I have my own independence. But yeah, I thought that was crazy. Didn't mean to derail your thought there, but that was just like a funny experience that I wanted to share. Virtual reality.
Right. So then, So I got the job. What?
Yes.
And it was much better because it was more of a consistent gig, which is more about, like the laws of Los Angeles once you get over there.
Yeah, you don't want to be in between jobs.
Yeah,
right?
and like freelance is kind of like a regular thing over there, and I did not like being in freelance, not at all. Like the Bachelorette jobs would be like far in between from each other, and other gigs would just be like networking, whereas this was like an everyday thing, like a Monday to Friday job.
You knew you're gonna make your money and get your consistency
and learn about the future, man.
Exactly, virtual reality is the future, dude.
Yeah, it was getting your cake and eating it too. Yeah, and they were getting they were a very small a startup. It was a startup company, and I did not know what that meant at the time. But what it means, now I know what the hell that means. It means like these are people that are doing these jobs for the first time, and they won't always be perfect at it.
Oh, of course not. Yeah, but sometimes you don't want somebody who's been entrenched in it forever.
No, that's
right?
true, and also it gives you more opportunities to try things that you normally wouldn't try.
Exactly. You get a little more freedom because they're like, it's guerrilla style, right?
Yeah.
Like, all right, well, how can we do this with 7 people?
Yeah, it is not just black and white. There's a lot of gray.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of gray.
I bet.
So I was for a little while the vault PA. So I was like in
For people who don't know what a PA is, go ahead and.
Yeah, a PA is it's a production assistant. What I was doing was more than a production assistant, but usually a production assistant is someone that's it could be a number of generic things as far as like keeping track of like where the food is, like for the Bachelorette, or making sure where all the talent is, where they need to be. A lot of grunt work normally, or doing a lot of runs. That is like the main PA thing. A lot of my friends that became PAs had to do a lot of runs. If you don't have a car in LA, it's like you're not even like, they won't hire you. You need a car. So I like to say a production assistant is more like a runner. That being said, I was more than a runner at this virtual reality production company, because they had a lot of jobs. So you had to like, I suppose, like network with a lot of the rental companies, and you get to really learn a lot of the equipment that they would need. And with that, I got in talks with like the head engineer of the production company, and you get to find out where they came from and what they were doing. They had one guy that would create a lot of the equipment that they would need, because it wasn't designed yet, because it was like a up and coming technology. Yeah,
it's not like there's like established things about virtual reality. There's like only.
This is 2015.
Yeah.
There was not. This is 2018 now, and there is.
There is now, yeah, and there's a lot of competitors in the space now.
There's so much more.
But at the time, cutting edge innovation.
They believed that they were the ones. I believe they were the ones.
Chosen one.
Yeah, man, it was like, this is it. When my manager showed me the company,
one company, one vision.
they had their app out, and you can use
the Verse app.
Yes.
I didn't know this company, but I did know about that app because didn't Childish Gambino or something do a thing through Verse for one of his concerts or something?
I don't know.
I could be wrong on that, but there was definitely something that had me download that app, but I didn't really have any virtual reality.
My name is in the credits, Michael Cantu, in a couple of the projects. Yes.
Holla.
Testing.
But it was can you not hear yourself? Okay, I hear you. You're still good.
All right, then we could just
so ultimately the Verse app was an app that you could download and you could watch things in virtual reality if you had a headset, right? Like you could like the Google thing, right? The Google Cardboard.
Yes, you did not need a headset to download the app. You can still look at it normal view.
But it's not as cool.
No, it's not as you're not as in tune with the story. And but what for me, I had the Google Cardboard to try it out for my iPhone 5. And when I saw it, I was blown away. It was the first time you see it, of being within the experience. It was a total different way of storytelling, and I was like, this is what I want to do. This is like the next thing. And I'm like, I just landed here in LA, and like, this is I'm going all in on this.
Yeah, this is my destiny.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So then I went through this whole thing, and all I've done was just learn, and it was a really great company because they had free coffee every morning, and they had like donuts, and because this was they were sharing the same building from the commercial company, and so it was a lot less the high risk because they were like living off this other company who was made by the same owners.
Okay.
Yeah. Funny enough, they actually flew me to Portland with his executive producer to distribute the headsets to show off some of our projects to the Whiting Company, Whiting Kennedy, which is a advertising agency of Coca-Cola and Nike, which is like one of their best brands, and that was super cool. And going through all that, it really shows you, what's out there. I mean, I was just, from Chicago, born and raised, and when you get thrown into a company like this, like they're trying to like grab to the whole world.
Yeah, they have big aims. Virtual reality is one of those things that right now is still not quite, it's still like early adopter stage, right?
Yeah.
Where like you got to have a lot of money and be willing to spend it on something
exactly.
like this.
It's like $1,500 to get a headset, good one.
Dude, and even so the cheapest setup, isn't it a PS4 with
that's right, the PSVR.
I think it's
the
the PS4
Morpheus.
combined with the PSVR, I believe is the cheapest way you can get an entry-level virtual reality set.
Well, there's
either that or the Vive, maybe.
No, there is also the Samsung Galaxy phone, which is the reason I got the phone. I went from an iPhone 5 to the S7 Edge, so I could create my own content, and you get your own headset, and it's all in the phone. And that's actually what they would use to demonstrate the content that they have, was use the S6 headsets. And that's one of the things I was in charge of. My boss tells me, he's like, you see all these headsets, like you gotta make sure all of them were marked. You had to make sure that they were all in the at the time, the filing cabinet, because they were like really starting up.
Yeah.
And you had to like mark in where they were going and everything, and who had them. So you had to make sure where they were going, and so it was widely available on these headsets that you had to put on people's faces with the phone. So thank goodness Samsung had that power, which I think they were really banking on, that VR would become this huge thing, which I feel like now AR is going to be the next thing.
AR is going to be the next thing, but VR still is the ultimate thing, in my opinion. I feel like the ultimate thing is going to be able to be completely encompassed. Like, it'll be cool to be able to see overlays in the real world. That's fine. I see that being abused with advertisements. Everywhere you walk, you're going to see a floating ad where there normally isn't one. But yeah, that's a dark future. But I also see the virtual reality space as being something where people will have like those holodeck type scenarios where you have a room that's dedicated to VR where you can literally jump up and run around.
Yeah.
Like maybe the floor is one big omnidirectional treadmill that no matter what, it'll never let you go super close to the walls. And then you have sensors placed all around the walls that can read your movements, and then you straight up can just like exist. But then, that's far down the line in terms of the final development of VR, at least in my head, is that you want to be able to really plug in. And maybe even further down the line is a brain implant, right? Something that's straight up, you plug into the Matrix the way that like the Matrix did it.
Yeah, I think it's all cost effective. That's really what it is. Also, it's a big hassle to put a headset over your face.
No, it is. It is a big hassle.
And that makes people lazy. Like, why am I gonna like take 10 minutes to figure out how to put this on correctly when I can just watch whatever's on Netflix? Like, boom, boom, boom,
until
boom.
you can make it easy enough for people to do it. You're right. There is going to be that where it's only going to be people who are enthused about it, people who really just love the idea and love that futurism aspect of virtual reality. Because there certainly is something to that, right? It's that Star Trek-y, like, future version of ourselves that would be playing in the virtual reality space.
And on another note, I actually played the Star Trek Bridge Crew for the PlayStation 4 VR, and that's amazing. Where you're in the seat of the captain, you can control the ship.
Oh wow!
And it's pretty good. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, there are some cool games that are coming out. I feel like naturally VR lends itself to like space stuff. So there's like a few games. There's that Valkyrie game, right? And then what's the other one?
There's also
Star
one
Citizen.
where you're Batman.
There's the Star Citizen one. But yeah, there's a lot of them where it's like you basically get to customize your spaceships and fly around, have dogfights, and it seems really cool. Like that seems like my favorite type of experience would be one where you can encompass yourself in a way that you normally could not with any other medium. Because there are some things that I think people are doing in the VR space that I'm like, is that the thing? I don't know, right? But I think something like, being in a spaceship, that's certainly something you're not going to be able to replicate with any real feeling of being immersed the way that VR can. Whereas, I don't know, there might be other activities in video games that don't need to be VR, in my opinion. Yeah. Like I don't want a first person shooter in VR. I feel like I'd be terrified. Wouldn't you? You'd feel like you're in a war zone.
Yeah. They have some of those games.
No, I know they do, but I feel like that would be not as absolutely. It's not as fun as
takes
like
you places where
you
you don't want to go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you would get like PTSD and shit from those battles because it would feel so real to your brain that how would you be able to distinguish the fear? Because everybody I've ever watched YouTube videos of that have been wearing these headsets, they get so immersed. Like when they play those like the scary ones. Like there's what is that, Resident Evil or whatever. Yeah. Like that would freak me the fuck out. In virtual reality, I don't know that I'd want to do that. Whereas flying a spaceship, hell yeah, I would love to do
I
that.
actually tried the Resident Evil one, and that reminds me of another thing. If you don't have the headset correctly on, or if there's like a miscalculation or so, you could get sick.
The motion sickness. Yeah. That one of the things that I think was holding virtual reality back was like latency, and
definitely, and it still is. It still is. It still is. It still is.
I was hoping that they had fixed that a little bit now.
Dude, everyone's hoping. Everyone in the virtual reality business is hoping.
Yeah, it's a pipe dream, man. It's a pipe dream. No, so that's really interesting. So given that you were in the space, what are some predictions that you would make about where you think it'll go because you actually know what it's like on the inside, whereas maybe people who are just speculating from the outside wouldn't really have a good educated guess on?
Right. Well, right now it's pretty surprising. I'll just tell you right now. I think, from my point of view, at least the way virtual reality is right now, is that I feel the bubble has kind of burst. And what I mean by that is, we used to create virtual reality, in quotes, 360 cinematic VR with a bunch of cameras, and then in post production you would stitch them together, and that was multiple cameras. Since then, they have built like one camera
that has a 360.
Correct.
Yeah. And
since then, there's become even better equipment that has been one camera that has like 4 lenses or 8 lenses in like 4K. And I just saw the other day 8K. Does it need to be that real? So my point is,
I would argue that it does.
Every 6 months, the equipment gets revamped and stronger and better. And the competition is fierce. I actually purchased one because I was like, it was actually I went to a show and this guy had a 360 camera and I'm like, dude, like that's not a GoPro like rig that you make in 3D printing, which is how I like it. I learned about 3D printing from like the engineers that were over there. And he's like, oh, this is the so-and-so. And I'm like, what? And I wrote it down and I looked it up and I'm like, oh my God, like this thing isn't even like in stores, or this is like an Indiegogo thing. Mm-hmm. And I invested in it. It was a lot of money. And I like made projects. I brought it to work. And I'm like, look what I can do. And everyone's like, what? And I was doing so, and I actually met some other people through like LinkedIn, like, hey, I got this camera, and they're like, what? Like, I didn't even purchase that camera yet. And they're like, come on over and we can test it out.
Let's make some stuff.
Yeah, and that's what happened, and it was a really great way to like meet people. But then I was getting like nervous because it was a lot of money, and like I'm looking online in the forums, and it's like, geez, like every day there's like something new coming out, and I can't catch up. And I was like, I'm not ready to dedicate my life like this. And also, it would be freelancing again.
Yeah.
So I work at a...
So that's what... Yeah, because I was going to get to that. Is like, what then brought you out of that space? Because clearly, you're talking about everything past tense. Audience, I think, is gathering that so far as like, yeah, you decided to move on to other things. So what caused you to decide to leave? And would anything be able to tempt you back into that space?
Yeah. Well, what definitely tempted me to leave is because the technology from 2015 I thought was unreachable and was hard to get to, but my company was doing it. But after I came back home and working at a television station, I was able to see basically the world catch up to where I was in LA. Like, we had the first like ember of the fire, and then it just like rolled over to the world.
Now we're burning all the hills in LA.
Yeah, and there's been so much content. That was a pretty good joke. So much content now that like anyone that makes something good, it could be great and it could be muffled through all this noise of other content.
It won't even break out.
Exactly. So that's why I think the bubble has burst.
That's fair. So there's a lot of good works that because there's a lot of people in the space, there's not necessarily a lot of people buying the headsets who are actually consuming this content. That means there's also then not as much incentive for big companies to put a lot of money into it when they can make way more money on a AAA title going for one of the major systems or something like that.
That's true. If it ain't broke, it ain't broken.
Although I would argue that it is broken. If you look at AAA games and the kind of trend of the past however many years, they keep making these really shitty games that then cause outrage and microtransactions and all this stuff. And obviously,
EA Battlefront
right?
2.
Yeah, exactly.
Forget about it.
Exactly.
The force is not with you.
And that's kind of my point. Is that I think video games are clearly not going to go away. Right? People want video games, but they want good video games. And lately, I think a lot of these major companies are not producing great video games. Like last year. There were some good video games that came out, but there were also a lot of flops. And, you're not always going to get a Breath of the Wild, right? Like, that game was amazing. That game was probably the best video game I played in a long time. But that's one game out of how many games that were released that year. And, I mean, I don't have one of the modern consoles. I wish I did. I really need to get a PS4 or an Xbox One or something. I only have a Wii U right now.
So
I don't even have a Switch.
You haven't bought a game this whole year, or last year rather?
I only bought Breath of the Wild. That was the only one that I bought. But I have played through other, my friends' consoles and stuff. So I'm still connected to the video game world. But I also follow all the reviews and stuff. So I know how the internet feels about these games, even if I haven't played them myself. Like Battlefront 2, for example. Yeah. Totally educated on the fuckery that whole thing was with the points and making it where you basically had to buy these characters, which I think that's you can't do that. I like the Breath of the Wild Super Smash Brothers approach, because originally when Smash came out, they weren't planning on doing a lot of DLC. They really weren't. It was because it succeeded so well. When they
Wii U?
Yeah, they knew that they were going to do a couple characters.
Oh.
I think they knew they were going to bring Roy back.
And Mewtwo?
They knew they were going to bring Mewtwo, but that was kind of it. And then after it was so well received, they're like, all right, well, fine. Like, we'll throw in a few more characters, right? It's making money. Well, let's do it. However, they didn't do the we're gonna take the game, make it in its entirety, take off chunks of it, and then make you buy it. That's not how it went. It was like, no, you got the whole game, and then they just later decided to add more characters.
Right.
And if they were to release Smash again on the Switch, which of course they're going to, come on, they're going to do a Switch version of Smash. If they do that, they're not going to do that to you, right? They're going to give you the characters that they already have, and then they might come up with some extra characters that they might want you to pay for, which I'm okay with that. But I don't want to feel like you stole parts of the game back so that you can make me have to pay for it to get it. But if you want to give me extra stuff that you weren't initially going to put in the game and you just want to put it as an afterthought and the whole game feels complete without those things, by all means, I'm for it. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with cosmetic stuff. Yeah. You want to buy video game in suits or whatever it may be, color skins, etc. Fine, do it.
Absolutely.
Do it. But don't take my game, chop it up into pieces, and give me 75% of it. Tell me it's a game, and then say I got to buy the other 25%.
The first time I experienced that was in high school when Soul Calibur 4 came out. And that was a big one because the PS3 version, you would get Darth Vader. But in the Xbox 360 version, you got Yoda. But then, 3 months later, they were like, oh, if you pay $5, you can get Darth Vader in the Xbox One or Xbox 360 one. And then you can get Yoda on the PS3.
Yeah, see that?
And it was built in the disc. Everyone knew, whoa, it was already in the disc the whole time.
Exactly. And see, that's what I have a problem with. That's where I don't have a problem with microtransactions in general, but I do have them with that type of usage. That cannot be the way that we do it. But yeah, no, I think video games are interesting, and virtual reality certainly is going to play a large part in how it's going to shape the future of it and how we consume these things. And the future of movies, I think, is very interesting too in the virtual reality space. I think
absolutely,
we can create some really interesting movies and documentaries as well.
There's a great story with that right now.
Yeah,
for Alien Covenant, which I was a huge Alien fan. They came out. They posted on YouTube. It was an Alien Covenant prequel or like a scene from the film of you're in someone's body. You're seeing POV of the alien itself inside the body, bursting out. And it was actually supposed to be a shot from the film, but it was totally used to commercialize and advertise for Alien Covenant for new film. And I was waiting for the credits to come up, and I saw RSA Films, and I was like, what the hell is this? Apparently Ridley Scott's his own advertising agency, and that was the company that used it, that made it. And I emailed these people, and I'm like, hey, I worked at so-and-so, and I know about this and this and this. And they reached back to me, and they're like, oh, shit, hey, man, let's talk on the phone and see what's going on. And then he talked to me and told me about all this stuff, and actually told me about, they're located in New York, and he told me about, there's a VR arcade at the time. I looked him up. Turned out they had a really cool session of learning VR and a great community and partying system going on. And I was like, sure, I'm gonna go to this because my best friend lives in New York. I'm like, what a perfect time to go. So when I went over there, it was really informative about even more other emerging technologies that were going on, and going through that was incredible. And I was really expecting to learn code from them. A lot of people that were also in this session were not. So I was like the bridge. I'm like, okay, we obviously do not know what this and this means, and can you elaborate more on this? Where everyone else was like, So it was pretty funny, but it was pretty cool too. And that helped me more to always wanting to learn more and asking the right questions and looking more of where you need to go to find your answers.
So what would bring you back then? Because what would bring you back to what kind of opportunity in virtual reality would bring you back to wanting to work at a virtual reality type company?
If there was a way that it wouldn't be so cut and paste of coding to make really good VR. Because when you say VR, it seems more of you're in a gaming world essentially. Through cinematic VR, I think it's just super easy to make now.
Yeah, because now you just cameras.
Put the camera on the pole and just set it, and there it goes.
Yeah.
If a good producer can make something really cool with that, like make it into somewhere everyone wants to be, like Tokyo. Everyone wants to see what's going on in Tokyo. So a producer has a shot in Shibuya, which is like the Times Square of New York. That'd be pretty cool. I like to be in that. But as far as getting back in, it'd have to be like a really cool project, a really great opportunity. I would definitely do it if it was a really great opportunity. Otherwise, catching up from like the base level, I couldn't go back on it like that, because I could see it, unless it was a project I was really passionate about. Otherwise, I'd see it easily getting muffled and everything. So it had to be a really good project and a great team. That's really all it is. Because then you're not really missing anything. You're just gaining experience from it and meeting a lot of great people.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. And that's anything, right? Is like just having a good team around you, having a good situation, and something that you feel like you're working towards a larger thing for, right? It gives you that purpose.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, man. I think we'll end it on that. But thanks for your time, Michael. I really appreciate it, and I thought this was really fascinating. So hopefully everybody else does too.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks for having me.